Hey Professor, how are you? This is my recording on my final project or final lesson on the lesson segment where I had students write a friendly letter using friendly letter format, describing their favorite place using their senses, differentiated many different ways for a special education classroom, which we'll get into in a little bit. This is my example, my fully done example. It's my picture of my favorite place, my writing, greeting, body, salutations. This is what went around the classroom for students to visually see as the lesson segment went on. We started off with our KWL chart, so what students know, what they want to know, and then we revisit it later in the lesson segment, so a few days later, about writing, friendly letter structure, which is good. So body, again, conclusion, and salutations or closing. We had a lot of previous learning to do with how students, with their senses, how students use their senses, where they use their senses, making sure all students knew all 5 of their senses through classroom community building, with our daily morning handshake and our daily morning message that we present every single day, so it becomes routine. Now, again, in a special education classroom, this is huge because students are learning eye contact, conversation starters, getting comfortable speaking with a female or a male student or a teacher or an aide or another grown-up in the room who's getting comfortable speaking in front of each other and expressing themselves. The lesson I described in my writing is lesson 1, where students are only drawing, again, their favorite place. So mine was the beach. I have some examples of students' work here that we actually did in class. I have another student whose favorite place was the beach, and this is their friendly letter format. Again, we didn't emphasize that much on spelling because I wanted them to have their own time to create. Now, if I wanted to use this and go back, if I wanted to use this as some kind of assessment, and then I wanted them to go back and correct and edit their writing, we could totally do that too. Here's another example of one of my students' work whose favorite place was school. So he or she drew a school building. Here's their writing. Again, you see the heading, my favorite place is school. I see, I hear, I touch, I smell. So using some of the senses. Again, this was varied because or differentiated because some students have trouble writing, expressing themselves, if they're autistic, if they have ADHD, if they're oppositional defiant, if they have behavioral needs in my classroom. So different sets of students had to use different amounts of senses. So some only had to use 2 senses, so therefore being 2 sentences in their body paragraph. Some students used all 5 and did very well. My focus student, he is autistic. He has OT pullout, speech pullout. I worked one-on-one with him and his aide as well. Again, on his IEP, it's for him to write neatly. So I stressed that's what I wanted him to get out of the lesson, was writing neatly, and he did a pretty good job with that, which is good. He understands, he reads at an L. Rigby level, which is very high for a classroom, but his comprehension is lower, and his speech isn't there, and he's not nonverbal, but it's very hard for him to express himself without you giving him the answers. So I worked alone with him, writing sentences on the whiteboard, having him copy it neatly, or him reiterating what his sentences were to me. Some ways of assessment we have here is some student assessment, self-assessment. If they did categories 1, 2, 3, with smiley faces, straight faces, and stars. If you drew your favorite place, use your best work and neat. A letter to a friend or family member using 4 of my 5 sentences or whatever I established, or in your presentation of your drawing and your letter to the class. So that was the end of our kind of the end assessment that go hand in hand with how the handshake goes. So them just feeling comfortable in front of the class and being able to just simply read what they wrote and their work on their writing and reading fluency at the same time. And that pretty much wraps up how my lesson segment went. It went very well. I would change a few things next time around. I would probably try to incorporate again some kind of game in there to keep them more attentive or interested. We did play a sense matching game at the end where they partner up, and on the cards are different actions, and then there's names of the different senses, and they play a matching game where they flip the cards over and have to match what they flipped, which is good. Also, plays into the special education classroom with play and working on their cognitive listening and speaking, and just really being able to play and interact with each other at the end of a learning segment or end of a lesson is also very good. Overall, I think this went well. I would change a few things if I did it again, but I'd say it was definitely beneficial for my special education students. And again, thank you, Professor. Class was great, and we had a great semester, and I very appreciate it. Bye bye.